Welcome to Fit Fun Abs, your community podcast for health and well-being and all things wellness. Welcome. This podcast will be on food growing and sustainability with your hosts, myself, Sam from Fresh, and the incredible Katie Reekie from Aberdeen City Health and Social Care Partnership. So currently with us we have Bob Donald from One Seed Forward, Martin Carle from Cfine. We also have Esther, who's on placement alongside Katie. Later on, we shall be joined by Stephen Shore, Environmental Manager for Aberdeen City Council. Let's get started. From a fresh point of view, it's directly what we're doing with our area. You know, we're going to be growing food. It is a deprived area. We're trying to help with not only those at different age groups to encourage them, you know, and make it accessible for people in skyscrapers, you know, things literally on their doorstep. And also it's to very much inform people, get that message out there. Although it's something we're doing here, it's something that can be done in all other, not just priority partnership areas. You know, it's encourage everyone to get into it and maybe just show that it can be made easier with the help of, you know, yourselves as Cfine and others, with the keep growing and having that assistance available there instead of people getting scared off, oh, how do I do this? So that's where I think we're coming from with Fresh. Katie, for your viewpoint.
I guess it's like supporting Fresh as a charity and what we can do to support. So if that's providing knowledge, information on certain topics and just kind of getting in contact with the different organisations. So yeah, it's just to kind of support Fresh. Introductions,
Bob, you're first on the screen.
Sure. I think I know everybody actually. I've certainly met you all before. So I'm Bob Donald. I run One Seed Forward, community growing initiative to encourage people to grow their own food.
Thanks, Bob. Martin, you're next up.
Hi folks, I'm Martin Carle. I'm Sustainable Food Coordinator within Cfine, and I coordinate Granite City Good Food, which is Aberdeen City's Sustainable Food Places Partnership. So we work to create systems change around the food system in terms of sustainability in a number of areas, from food growing to the good food economy, procurement and other things like that. And I believe you've been liaising with my colleague Rebecca Dunn on this, so I'm stepping in for Rebecca, who's Cfine's Community Growing Officer, who sadly couldn't make the meeting today.
Thanks, Martin. Esther?
Well, the majority of you guys have met me already, but I'm Esther. I'm the student on placement with Aberdeen Health and Social Partnership. So I'm just doing like meetings, office work just now, because it's obviously online because of COVID and stuff. But yeah, I've just been in and out like through the organizations. Like I've been working with Martin. I was doing a community project the other week with Bob. So yeah, I've just been in and out, seeing what I like, seeing what's practical and like what's actually, you know, close to what I want to do in the future and stuff. So yeah.
That makes sense. That's fabulous. Katie?
My name's Katie and I'm a Health Improvement Officer for Aberdeen City Health and Social Care Partnership.
Thanks. And Sam, Fresh Community Wellness and Chairman. So, moving forward, Katie or Bob, we were just saying, Martin, before you came in, I don't know if it's the same for yourselves, but Bob's pretty busy in November time. So we're thinking of concentrating on that side of things. Is it the same for yourselves in November?
Yeah, there's lots going on at the moment between my project, between Rebecca's work as well. So yeah, there's lots going on at the moment, yeah.
So Bob, regarding food growing, perhaps we could do a summary of what's been started.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So One Seed Forward started in 2017 with a simple idea and aim to encourage people to grow their own food. We looked at the best way to do that, which was to give everything away for free that we possibly could. And we operated then, continue to operate then on an incredibly small amount of money. So it's all voluntary. Everybody's volunteering that we work with and part of our group. We primarily give away seed potatoes in March because it's pretty much a relatively easy thing to grow, and it does well in the Scottish climate. And there's very much there's lots you can talk about when it comes to food aspects about potatoes, because of heritage, about lineage, and everything else that goes along with it, and diseases as well. And so you can sort of talk about all that, and also then obviously through to the cooking point. We also give away seeds and everything as well. We tend to support community groups and schools. We do have, pre-pandemic, we were having a lot more giveaway sessions with people, so that families and individuals could come along and collect stuff from us. Obviously, that has been a bit difficult over the past wee while, but we're planning certainly in March to be doing that again. We are very much Aberdeen City and Shire, so we're very much conscious of not being branded as just being an Aberdeen initiative. So we do have a lot of output and a lot of connection into the Shire as well. I think what's great about it is that it starts to give you this whole opportunity about intergenerational learning and getting families involved. And so we always kind of encourage if we're putting stuff into schools, and I think last year we gave away seed potatoes, for example, to 140 schools and community groups in the area. And we're aiming to do more this year. So you'll be part of it, Sam, whether you want to or not. Whenever we're at events or anything, we're really sort of quite strong about trying to encourage people to grow with each other and then share produce. And very much the Keep Growing Aberdeen project, which we in partnership with Cfine, City Council and Health and Social Care Partnership, was brought about because of the pandemic issue of trying to get people active during lockdown situations, growing their own, sharing seedlings with other people, and eventually sharing produce that's been grown and then having recipes with it. So the idea had always been for me that what we do is that we would grow food, and then if we could possibly, we would have larger events where we would have cooking and eating festivities. And we've done that at Powys, for example. So the Powys residents group, we donate them potatoes. They've got a really active growing space there that they've created themselves as a community gardens, and that was then pushed out into individual gardens and back gardens in the area. So it wasn't restricted to just the central part of it. And then we'd had potato harvest days. So what we would then do is in the kitchen in the evening, we would invite everybody along, and we'd have various ways of having potatoes. Which was great, and lots of pakoras and trying all the different varieties that we'd grown and brought along, and just sharing with people and just getting people talking about it. And I think that whole social isolation, it gives you the opportunity to get away from that issue, to try and address that issue by having something in common, regardless of the age of the participants. So we're very much strong in that. Again, I think the past years it's almost been right up, but certainly let's keep our fingers crossed, 2022 we'll be able to sort of continue to do those things. And again, just give another example initiative, if we're thinking about how we do connections with people. This year we gave about 100 kilograms of sweet potatoes to the Haven in Stonehaven, which is a food, so if you've been aware of it or not, so it's a kind of got a food pantry kind of structure to it. They're also doing cooking classes and everything, but they created a program called Roots to Resilience, and the idea behind that was that we actually gave them the same stuff that Keep Growing Aberdeen did. So we, One Seed Forward, actually funded that whole thing for them. So we gave them pots and trays and everything for them to go and buy, and seeds, go and buy it themselves. It was a small scale version of Keep Growing Aberdeen, and the demand was fantastic. And then they shared everything out on Facebook. So they created a Facebook group and they shared all the information, and they're growing. And then Francesca, who is the community grower down there, she would post little videos up about what she was doing, and then people would respond to that. So realise I'm talking about quite a bit of this, but I just think there's maybe some ideas in there that could then maybe pushed into people that are sort of, and yourself and your group, Sam, because I think that what's important from that then is you can do things. The best way to do it is to do it together if you can physically meet. If you can't physically meet, creating a Facebook group and having discussions with people with regular postings where people can see how to sow seeds and how things are growing, and then to correspond with that. And then what was happening in the haven was that then people who were growing then took the food back into the haven and to the pantry, and then other people were then getting the benefit of the growing for it. So the whole circle was kind of completed, and then they are looking this year at doing cooking classes so that they can then look at healthy ways of eating the produce that you've got.
Thanks, Bob. Just for anyone, obviously if people are listening to this, virtually the whole way through that, you were smiling, and I think you could sense that through not just the passion of what's been said, but how it affects people and how it's managed to reach people. That to me is absolutely incredible. I guess pretty much all of us have that in common. Even if there's restrictions with COVID or with abilities of getting in and out, there is still a need to eat. And if we can get to somewhere and having that result of growing something and then, making it and having it a challenge because you're cooking it a different way is fantastic. And I really like the idea of things like the seed potato, starting with something that people can. I'm not saying people can't relate to other vegetables, but I think the potato is something people can relate to, and it's such a great way to start things. Before we move on, Martin, would you like to come in for the Cfine side?
Yeah, absolutely. So Cfine Community Food Initiative North East is an organisation that's been around for quite a while in Aberdeen City and supports a variety of different projects around food growing and nutrition. Some of the key projects, just to touch on some of the things that Bob was speaking about there, Keep Growing Aberdeen is a key organisation, a key partnership that Cfine's part of, and one of the roles there has been the distribution and touching on that social connection in terms of how growing has been impacted upon and community growing has been impacted upon across the pandemic. So in 2020, 264, I think is the number, seed packs were delivered to communities across Aberdeen, and in this year in 2021, 415 seed packs were delivered, and that's all about creating an opportunity for people to grow, but it also creates a social connection because as Bob touched upon, there's social media, and there's a Keep Growing Aberdeen Facebook group as well, which has something, it's constantly growing, but the last time I checked, it was just on around 640 members. So it's that connection in terms of having that opportunity to grow, having that opportunity to kind of come together and share information, learn from one another, share inspiration around what it is that's been growing, both within and out with the project, because I think that Facebook group has really developed a life of its own in that regard. Some of the work that's gone on, supplementing that has been Keep Growing Aberdeen virtual food skills classes, so live and participatory and pre-recorded, so very accessible to people. And they took place, there was 8 classes over summer 2021, which looked to sort of enable people and empower people to be thinking about what kind of things they can be cooking with what they eat, and touching on that again, the social connection of doing it together and moving on that journey to learn about that together as well. And they were really, really successful as well, and actually supported the development of a toolkit into virtual food skills, and supported, the empowering of others out with the growing community to be thinking about how they can be using food skills as that social connector, and thinking about that as well. Some of the wider things that Cfine's involved in, obviously my colleague supports quite a lot of community growing institutions and organisations and just community groups in general, through advice, through practical support, getting involved where it needs to be. Cfine currently is developing and has sort of launched a tool library, which a variety of different community organisations have been able to access, including yourselves and other groups have been looking at creating community growing spaces for themselves as well. My project, Sustainable Food Places, is all about linking that up and linking Cfine's work in not just growing, but in wider food support terms up into, strategy, and to make sure that we're creating systems change around this. So Granite City Good Food supports the food growing strategy in Aberdeen City and supports the implementation of that. That group in September actually hosted Aberdeen City's first community garden festival, which was a really, really successful, really, really dynamic and quite quickly planned project of bringing community gardens into that space where they're all working under one banner and really celebrating community gardening as a volunteering opportunity, as something that people can be empowered to do themselves and in their own home or in the space that they have to work with, and to really look at promoting community gardens across Aberdeen as well. So there's multiple avenues that took, and it looks to have been really, really successful as well, and it was a fantastic weekend. We got the good weather for it. Out with growing and out with sustainability, I suppose. Cfine also delivers food support services, such as our emergency food support through our food bank. We've got pantries that individuals can sign up to, which is where they would pay a pantry membership and a nominal fee per shop, and they would be able to pick a certain amount of items that reflect a higher value than that. And we also have financial inclusion, employability, and multiple other projects which situate food and situate food insecurity in a broader context. So everything that we do kind of connects in, and everything we do kind of connects together.
That was and I feel like I've been typing away so many questions for you both. I don't know, Sam, if you've got questions you want to.
No, I mean, Katie, if you go ahead, just a huge thanks, Martin. That's again, it was a really positive message.
I don't know where to start with all my questions. I guess I'd be interested to kind of see if there was key challenges to implementing services, or if there's, especially with the pandemic, if there's been anything that's been really difficult to kind of achieve.
Well, I'll go first on that then, and Martin can sweep up the bits that I don't actually start talking about. Yeah, Katie. There was certainly difficulties. There's no doubt about it, and I was very, very concerned about the ability to be able to achieve and get out all the stuff that I'd bought, because our main delivery point is in March. And so I'd ordered all these seed tatties in January, and so I was really worried that my house was going to be full of 1,000 kilos of seed potatoes in the front room that I couldn't get out to anybody. So, but we were able to achieve it, and there was difficulties, of course, associated with that. But I think it kind of, for me, the pandemic kind of brought out the best and worst in people. So, yeah. I mean, you had the whole situation of the hoarding and everything, and then you saw some amazing work and activities that have continued since then, for people sort of helping out and bringing out a spirit of community. So I think it kind of showed the whole human psyche in lots of ways. But really, from a food growing perspective, I think there's been a trajectory of interest in growing as a result of it. Over the past 2 years, there was a trajectory anyway that would seem, with people getting more and more interested, but we've really actually sort of seen quite a rise, a steep curve in interest. I think partly there's lots of issues. I think there is the whole point of being outdoors. I think there's also this real focus about the impact that your food choices have on the climate, and certainly through a much younger generation, to be perfectly honest with you, who are much more in tune with vegetarianism and veganism than sort of some of our older people, I include myself in that. But I think that, so I do think there's a shift change, and I think that that's what we're going to be seeing, is that we've got to somehow then reflect that change in the practices that we're doing, and with strong voices, this whole focus of much more localization, local produce, supporting local producers, and sort of moving towards a more plant-based diet, I think is going to have a big impact. And I think that's probably the one thing I would say that I've seen as a biggest shift this year.
Like, especially with COP26 and everything, like, I think I've basically become not fully vegan, but my diet is completely, I was vegetarian, and then I'm like, I may as well do the full thing because it's fun. But I was going to quickly ask, adding on to that, is there any additional support that One Seed Forward could benefit to kind of improve services and going in a future directions?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I suppose it kind of depends if you look at it from our community perspective or our education perspective. For the education perspective, certainly I would like to see more of an adoption of our school growing programs through everywhere. I sound a bit like a broken record, and I was in a call with Leslie Dunbar a couple of days ago, so I've sent some stuff to Leslie. So that wasn't aimed at you, Stephen, at all. So we'll look at that. No, I think there's a lot of community groups who are actually sort of like now coming on board, and I mean, likes of obviously Sam, your fresh group, and lots of and Martin has said, lots of other community groups happening in the city, and I think there's just a real take on it. So no, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's just about supporting people as much as we can, and to realise that we're all in it together, and it's not a competition about one group being better than another group or anything. It's really just about how we can actually support things a bit more. And I do think there's an element of that in Aberdeen, the support, I mean, not the competition. And maybe it's something that we could actually sort of look and focus on it a bit more, because I know that Glasgow's very, very good at having like centralised working relationships. And I know that Ed was very, very bad at it, and I think Aberdeen sort of sits somewhere in between the two. Perhaps we can just do something, I think, as individual groups together to try and sort of see if there's maybe programmes that we could all work on. Because the Keep Growing Aberdeen partnership, it was only 4 partners, but I think we've worked incredibly well in the 2 years that we've done together. And maybe now is the time to expand that group out more, so that we can maybe achieve larger aims than maybe what we were originally going for.
Sounds like there's so much like opportunities, and hopefully you can link up with all these groups, and I think working together and partnering up is so essential. I guess the same question again, Martin, for yourself, if you have had any key challenges recently in Cfine.
It's a really interesting question, because actually I came into my role in September last year, so I sort of came in amidst the pandemic and haven't really known anything else. But of course there were challenges, and I think logistics is a lot of it. Everything was pushed to being non-in-person, and whether that's food support and delivering food support, or the logistics, for example, of the Keep Going Aberdeen project, where e-bikes and volunteers were utilised to get those packs out to people, right through to the impact on groups being able to connect with one another and being able to keep their work ongoing. I think logistics and that push of the pandemic in terms of everything being put online was a real distinct challenge. Just to sort of echo, I suppose, what Bob was saying, I think partnership was a real benefit there. I think working in partnership, and the work that I coordinate, so Granite City Good Food, is all about partnership. It is the sustainable food partnership for Aberdeen City, and I think the partnership and the development of projects and initiatives alongside other organisations, I think, was a real benefit, and allowed bits and pieces of work to keep going, and allowed that sort of resource smart working, because again, all organisations found themselves in a sort of virtual format, or having questions perhaps at the start of the pandemic that they didn't have the answers to, and so working together allowed to find those answers and to sort of get through that. I think where we are just now, there's been a lot of opportunity recognised, and there has been a lot of working together that has produced results. As I mentioned there, the Community Garden Festival is one of them, and how those solutions have been found, and how those connections and that sort of that partnership approach has resulted in relative success. and coming out of the pandemic wider, there's an opportunity to sort of take some of those lessons and to take some of those challenges that we've had, and look at how we further embed them. Because I think everyone is sort of at the understanding that things probably, I say probably in want of not being definitive on this, but probably won't return exactly to how they were before the pandemic. There have been things that we've learned, and there have been advantages to the sort of way that we've been working and the way that we've been partnering with others on that. So I think the opportunity is there to think about what it is that we've learned, what it is that we've done, and look at how that transfers into how we emerge, and as we are emerging at the moment, how we continue with that as well.
No, definitely, thank you. This just kind of came to my head here, but this is open to anyone, but with like the impact of climate change, do you think this will have a significant impact on food growing schemes and allotments and the ability to grow vegetables or different types of varieties the way that we used to be able to do with all this weather changes? Or like in Glasgow there was really bad floods recently, and I'm sure that has destroyed different allotments. And do you think this is going to impact going forward in the future, the kind of climate crisis?
I can jump in on that. I think the answer is yes. It's just a question of how much it's going to be and how you kind of approach it. One of the issues, actually, strange enough, is water. And I was speaking to someone yesterday who's very, very keen on water being regenerative programs and looking at water capture. And that it seems a bit strange when you look at the unfortunate events that are happening down the borders at the moment. But I do think that perhaps there are ways and there are impacts that we're going to have to do that are slightly different in the way that we approach our food growing. And certainly I think that looking at things like how we capture water for the dry spells we're going to have is really important. And also probably about just how we look at composting and the impact that can really have, the positive impact it can have if we were to teach people a bit more about how you look at putting out your food waste. Because whilst I think it's great that we do as a council have a collection for food waste, and then it's put up to sort of in a circle where it's going to end up back as either green waste or composting through Keenan's. There is still the whole aspect of picking that all that up, and maybe if we can do a bit more of that at home, there may be some issues that we can do. It probably, I don't know how long it's going to take though. We have seen that sometimes, nature adapts. That's what I've always found so far. So when you have long dry spells, suddenly some things will grow really well and some things won't. So I think it's maybe quite early, but we probably do have to look at. I would think we need to look at what we're actually growing to try and look at maintaining the local biodiversity and make sure we've got local crops that are actually growing, and particularly capturing the seeds of local crops, because they're adapting to survive whatever is happening in the northeast of Scotland. So maybe focus more on seed saving, and then being able to use those seeds again will actually ensure that we've got something that is adaptable and therefore can grow into whatever climate we've got and currently within the northeast of Scotland.
Thanks, Bob, for that. And for me, we mentioned veganism and vegetables, and I wondered, perhaps Stephen, if you could maybe mention the changes regarding exactly what Bob's saying there about gathering the local seeds, but also having an understanding of what season vegetables are available in. Because I think perhaps that's something that may help climate change, if people understood that some vegetables, although they're in the supermarkets, they're not in Scotland all year round, so they might well think they're doing a good thing, that certain diets or whatever, but if they're not doing, whether it's growing things or getting locally sourced vegetables, it can still affect climate change. And also to introduce yourself, Stephen, if that's okay.
Yeah, hi, thanks Sam. Hi everyone, I think you all know me. I'm Stephen Shaw, Environmental Manager in Aberdeen City Council. From what Bob's saying there around climate change, 100% agree with Bob. I mean, it's there will be an impact around climate. We've seen it over recent years, and it's only going to get wider. As environmental manager for the city, we're seeing our seasons stretched all the time. Cutting grass, it's a very simple thing, cutting grass. We would normally be, going back a few years, have stopped by now. We're still well cutting grass into what would be seen as our winter period. So climate is having a huge impact on us. I'm very much, you talk about water and saving water. Yes, I think we should be working with nature as far as we can rather than fighting it. There's positives and opportunity there to work with nature. And I think we should be looking to do more of that. What I can say is that I think there's a better understanding now, certainly from young people, about the impact that climate has. And you mentioned there, Sam, about where your food comes from. Back in our day, it all came from Sainsbury's or whatever, Asda. Was had that. Now the kids are understanding where that food is coming from and the impact that has in terms of how the food arrives in the shops and where and how locally we should be looking to source that and make that work better for us. So I think there's a better understanding and a better education around that side of things, which is great. We want to see more of that. And I always find that young people are enjoying my time with young people, I suppose, in terms of what they have to say, because they get it, they understand it, and they've got far better ideas than any adults have. It's they're just good fun to be around, but they just get it, they totally understand it, and they appreciate it, and they want to make a difference. So I find if we can get our young people on board and making some of the decisions in the city, I think that we'd all be in a better place, to be perfectly honest. But I think they just it's always, let's give young people a voice. That's what I'm saying, in terms of making these changes and see what difference that can make.
As a young person, I love the idea, Stephen. I don't know if it could already be in place, but almost like champions or ambassadors within One Seed Forward or Cfine, where the voices of different groups such as young people are heard and their opinions, thoughts are really taken forward into organising. Is that something you would consider or would like to do? Because it'd be quite an interesting volunteering role, because there is a big push for champions, ambassadors in all different areas such as health and wellbeing champions.
Yeah, certainly from my point of view, absolutely. And we've had a very brief chat about that before, Kate. But yeah, I think so. And that's what we saw when we were in schools, and unfortunately we've not been able to get back in schools. And then the continuation of the mask policy that has just happened this week has meant that we're probably going to be a wee bit restricted before we get back in again. But as Stephen says, the ideas that you get, and a lot of our materials are developed by the pupils, and the children come and go, "Oh, why don't we do this?" And it's like, "Oh, that's brilliant! I'll take that as my idea." So, yeah, definitely. I mean, we would be delighted to sort of do that. As I said earlier on, very, very keen on the whole intergenerational learning thing, and having people of all ages. Probably the youngest group we're supporting outside schools is the university, the Secret Garden Society at the university. But yeah, certainly from an OSF perspective, and I think for a lot of community groups, would be delighted to get so it's not a bunch of 60-year-olds sitting on a committee, which yeah, unfortunately most of ours are. So yes, younger people, please come on board.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that, Bob. I mean, we've for a number of years now been sort of pushing young people to be at the forefront of our campaigns and what we're trying to deliver. Going back 2018, where I had primary school 7-8-year-olds host our Clean Up Aberdeen event in the Beach Ballroom, and when you have 7-8-year-olds pushing a message around the environment and Clean Up Aberdeen, people listen, and I had the council leader taking questions, and she had to, what she was answering, she had to ensure that she was going to be delivering that. But I think it was just a brilliant event to have young people hosting that and leading on that and driving that. Because as you say, Bob, a lot of these things can normally be, 56-year-olds with ties on, and and it needs to be people who are at the very start of the sort of journey, I suppose, making that decision making. So I'm all for that, and I will continue to invite and encourage young people to be at the forefront of these things, because I think it just adds so much fun and sort of excitement to the things we're trying to do. And when you get young people singing about climate change, that means what a difference that makes. People stand and listen. And I always remember the poor expert who had to follow that and give us the doom and gloom story about climate change. He'd no chance, absolutely no chance. Bring the kids back on. The moment you hear them singing again, so there's a lot in that, and bringing young people in and making them, as I said before, just have a voice. And I think the council is looking to do that. Is encourage young people to be part of something and give them that voice. And certainly for my own services, we will always be looking to encourage schools. It has been very difficult, as you say, Bob, the last year or so, and it will continue to be that for the foreseeable future. But the schools will always be there. So it's just connecting in with the with the teachers who want to be part of something, and just finding the time. That's the biggest issue, I believe, is the resources and the time to do what everybody's wanting. But I think we have to find a way, because at the end of the day, it's the future for everyone, isn't it?
It's Stephen, there's been any key community engagement work that has worked really well to getting the voices of the young people that you have done in the past that could be beneficial to share with everyone here?
Across the council, Katie, that there has been, but it'd be difficult for me to make comment on each individual. Across the council, there's a whole host of great stuff being done by various services with young people. My own service, we're very lucky that we've got a good relationship with many schools in the city, and also other groups who feed into schools. So, in terms of our environmental campaigns, I mentioned Clean Up Aberdeen. We've also got our food growing Craster project, which I'm sure you'll be aware of. And it's your neighbourhood, which I mentioned before, our in bloom stuff. Simple things like the bulb planting we do with some schools. We have a number of schools, primary schools, I'm talking about, who champion the cause and climate. And I spend a lot of time, or as much time as I can, speaking in schools and engaging with classes and such like. And what's been really encouraging over recent times is schools coming out of the school, so they're part of the wider community rather than just within the school, that's lovely to see. We've got across Aberdeen schools who are doing this now. We engage with schools, for example, for play areas, to get the voice of the children, because at the end of the day, they're the ones playing on it. Yes. What do I know about play? The kids playing on it, they should be the ones who take real ownership and let's hear what they have to say about the play areas. So that's always lovely. That's always great fun. And it's difficult to consult sometimes with young people, because it's finding a route in, and how do you cover everyone in one go? But I think we're getting better at it, and I think it's just learning from others. Certainly what you said, Bob, about networking and getting better at that, I fully agree with that, because there's so much good stuff happening that we just don't know about, and we need to be making a bit of a song and dance about all these good things, singing the praises of where it's really going well, rather than trying to, I don't know if it's an Aberdonian thing, but just keeping it all quiet, to ourselves. We should be shouting from the rooftops about some of these amazing things that are going on. And but we can't do it ourselves. That's the thing, and so the more of us like this in this group, in this meeting, the better, I think. Yeah. And there's certainly been a real, I think things are happening now, and there's more and more people. I'm meeting more people all the time who are very like-minded and who want to make a difference. And I will continue to support and encourage that as best I can. Yes.
I feel so empowered. I forgot what I was going to ask. It was, do you think is there difficulties when you're trying to engage with different groups? Is the underrepresented groups or the hard to reach groups, has there been challenges getting a variety of diversity of groups involved in gardening? And do you think there's any reasons why, if it's, I don't know, the approach we take?
Yeah, I mean, that's never crossed my mind, to be honest.
No. I've noticed sometimes that it can be difficult in organisation to engage with harder to reach groups if it's like younger, for instance, younger people, or like the BAME community. That's difficult. I think maybe a variety of approaches is needed that are tailored to different groups and like their needs. So I don't know if there's any tips around that.
We kind of engaged with the Aberdeen Multicultural Centre, and in fact, I got them to take over our allotment, which was really good. I do think there are issues with it, and I think it's probably, you probably have to reach out. I think we have to reach out more, and not expect groups to sort of approach us as such, and I think that might be part of the issue. So I do think, again, that if there's something that's a bit more of a wider structure, and so it's easier for people to know, because there's a range of groups who are all working together, and it might be easier, Katie, for people to then feel that they can come in, and because the one thing I say about anybody who does gardening is that they're the most inclusive people I've ever met, because they want to shut up. Once you start speaking, all they'll do is talk, and they'll talk to anybody. Doesn't matter who it is.
I love that.
So that's what I've always found. So so I think it's probably about just maybe so like us as groups, and just thinking about how we can best open doors so that anyone, regardless of who it is, can come along and join and take part.
Definitely.
Thanks for that, Bob. That's true. I know it's even there's incredible things that, like say, Hazelhead, with different groups and services accessing gardening, and getting a taste of things. But I was also wondering, from perhaps the Cfine, mentioning kids, but also families, thinking of, sorry for going back to Seaton Linksfield in priority areas, but I guess that's a great interception there. You'd mentioned before, the likes of the food parcels, how that can lead on to food growing and options. Martin, I wondered if you had any ideas or thoughts.
Yeah, I think so. From the perspective of my particular role, part of a truly sustainable food system, and in Aberdeen City we worked at the Sustainable Food Places Awards, and we're currently working towards our silver. But part of a truly sustainable food system is really having a good food movement, so ensuring that everyone feels a little bit of ownership in the food system, whether that is them having the ability to choose a diet that is particularly climate friendly, or engage in food growing and become part of that community. A lot of it is about awareness and participation, so ensuring that there is a sense of ownership among every individual, among every community within Aberdeen City around that. And part of that is bringing that all together, and how do you look at ensuring that everyone's got a voice, and how there's space for everyone. I talk about choice there, and thinking about the empowerment of choice, and giving people options. Our pantry, for example, has the element of choice in choosing, what people take away from that, and there's always different choices there, and then there's an element of sustainability can come into that, and multiple different things that have happened there. But in general, I think it is all about creating that good food movement where people do feel that sense of ownership, and that they have a part of the food system that's theirs. And that seems, for the size of our food system in Aberdeen City, that seems quite marginal, but it's actually really significant. And if someone feels empowered to be, whether it's making choices for the environment, or making choices based on what will give them the most balanced nutrition, then that's all the same. It's all about giving people that choice, I think, and that ownership.
Esther, I've got a question for you. So have you learned like up to date or new approaches and stuff for engaging with communities or nutrition or anything in that as a student? Is there anything you would recommend that you've read?
I'm trying to think like the modules like module was anything that would relate. I generally can't think of anything at the top of my head, but I'm just trying to think. I'll have to look into it and get back to you because I can't think of anything at the top of my head.
Don't worry, kind of put you in the spot there. Or again, this is like an open question, but has there been evidence of improved diet and healthy weight and well-being due to the different services that are being delivered by One Seed Forward, Cfine, and is there any like recent good statistics?
I've not seen, because I'm doing like a report just now, like from one of my modules, and it's to do with like weight loss and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I've not seen like any resources that actually say their name specifically. So I'm not too sure, to be fair. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we've been getting feedback. Nonya's been getting feedback through the Keep Growing Aberdeen questionnaire, Katie, because we got a lot of positive feedback about the impact of the project in the first year. So I know that, and then we put out a pre-project questionnaire this year, and then we've been trying to collate feedback post project. And so I know that that's something that Nonya is working on. So I would like to hope that we'll see some benefits out of it. Certainly, last year there was lots of positive feedback from it, and there was quite a great amount of analysis that was done. So I think we're probably end of October. I think we're probably planning to have that out in the next 3 or 4 weeks actually. So I'm sure that we can pass that through to you. So you could then maybe relate it back in one of your future webcasts.
Yeah, no, that'd be really helpful. Thank you.
No problem.
I think there's lots of different levels at which that question can be answered as well. And whilst I don't have any quantitative information to hand at the moment, it's worth saying that there is a number of projects which around the city look to increase, overall wellness and overall balanced nutrition that do look to sort of create that healthy lifestyle and healthy diet. And it's also worth saying that within the community planning structures of Aberdeen City and within the local outcome improvement plan, there is again commitments within there and multiple partners working around the table in terms of promoting and working towards healthy weight and healthy diet. And so that work consists of much more partners than are around the table today, for example, but there is sort of that strategic level of work happening as well as on the ground stuff, such as Keep Growing Aberdeen, some of the Veg Cities project of our partnership, such as Tory Tasters and things like that, prior to Keep Growing Aberdeen. So there's a number of qualitative answers as well as partners being engaged around, supporting that more quantitative end through local outcome improvement plans and community planning structures, I suppose, as well. So just to say that there's a number of different ways I think that question could go.
Yeah, it's very broad because it's like even those, when you get that qualitative feedback, if it's quotes, focus groups, interviews, I think they're just as valuable as a statistic telling you, 50% of whoever's improved well-being. I do think those like good qualitative is just as good and really needed. It's like you're hearing the voices of your community, which I think is essential. But yeah, I don't know, Sam, if you've got any questions.
Absolutely agree with that. I like what Stephen was saying about people should be shouting it out. I appreciate that's not statistics and qualitative, but the more people that are coming on, there's a lot of social media, there's a lot of other different places that messages can go out, and the more positive messages, if this is possible, this is what can be done, you're feeling better. Yes, it's just one voice, but those all add up. And I think being able to see, again, coming from a non-educated background, looking in, if there's a lot of statistics, yes, that sounds great. But if there's a lot of people, whether it's like the kids or, someone singing a song for climate change, and you're actually hearing those voices popping up in videos or clips or whatever, and as Stephen said, shouting about it, that to me may be the first thing that I go, wow, okay, this is not only possible, but it's happening, and it's happening in the neighborhood. And I really like the thought of those positive messages, considering the times we've just been through, instead of looking at what can't be done, what's gone wrong, let's hear all these positives. And I guess for everyone, starting from the basics, things such as waste, or things that might have been food waste that could then be planted and grown into something. Is there opportunities there to help with poverty and get the whole family involved in, things such as waste? I think that's important.
Hi, Sam. I suppose to add to that, there's lots of very clever people with lots of great ideas and innovation in terms of how, waste is no longer just seen as something to throw away. It's something, what can we do it with? But what we need to be doing is encouraging these great people to and supporting them with their ideas. I think that can be the difficult bit. It's getting that initial idea in terms of what to do with waste and how we can recycle, reuse, whatever that might be. It's almost too easy in the past just to get rid of it. It's not my problem now. That's waste. That's somebody else to deal with. But I think we've all got a responsibility now for waste. And it's a huge challenge for us, for everyone who's involved in it. But we will all know people who have got some great ideas in terms of what we can do with it and what it can be used for. And it's just, it's about encouraging these people and making sure they're speaking to the right people and getting the right folk hooked in with each other to make these things a reality. I certainly think there's opportunity there. And it's just, it goes back to just encouraging them and making sure their voices are heard, to be honest, so that they can make a difference.
Thanks, Stephen. Sorry, Bob, but I was just going to say, one of the first things you said to me was go and speak to your local groups. And as bad as it sounds, when we sort of thought about the area, we hadn't thought about someone that was literally just past that area that had a project going. So suggestions like that, talking to each other, as simple as it sounded, maybe it's just me, but we'd been so fixated on doing what we wanted to do for this is our patch sort of thing, that we hadn't looked elsewhere. And it's from now looking elsewhere, as well as partnerships with other people, that's when it really broadens things up and opens things up for everyone. So thanks for that, Stephen. Sorry, Bob.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think that the way to reduce waste is to eliminate it in the first place. And I think that the biggest problem that we're faced with then is the way that supermarkets sell a lot of fresh produce, because they encourage you to buy quantities that you're not going to be able to use. And then it then ends up getting thrown out. And I think that's maybe the way to approach it. It's an easy thing to say, but the approach is to stop it. But it is about trying to get people a bit more educated about just how much they would actually need, and maybe going back. Going back to the old days when you didn't do one big shop and you always went to shops every day or every 2 days and just got what you wanted, And it was just buying vegetables, but it's probably also looking at maybe ways we could teach people about how you store stuff. So if you're going to be storing things, many people actually end up putting stuff in the fridge, and in fact, it's maybe the worst thing you can do, because the condensation that then creates will actually rot it a bit quicker. So there may be some ways, and you can't have it on packaging because I don't want to have any food packaging, so you can't have it on the label to tell you about how to do it. But maybe there needs to be some kind of approaches or some kind of encouragement to so that supermarkets in particular remove this, buy one get one free kind of attitude, and try and maybe reduce the amount of quantities of produce that they're selling out to people, if possible, it's still affordable, of course.
I relate to that. We're on about packaging, but there's something, as perhaps some of us will remember, when carrots were still covered in dirt, and the advantages of how long that carrot lasts for. covered in dirt, as opposed to needing to be in plastic, and because everyone wanted everything nice and straight and scrubbed. There was that change. So yeah, I think that'd be fantastic. We're talking about growing straight out the ground, stored correctly. It doesn't oxidize because it's covered. There's so many options there. Martin, you were going to come in.
Yeah, I think there's, again, lots of different levels to answer that question, and I think overall the theme is encouraging a little bit of circularity, whether it's someone growing their own and using that, or other things such as other bits and pieces of education to empower. So if it's food skills, thinking about, we're talking about quantity there, thinking about batch cooking and how you make the most of it at the point that you obtain that food, or thinking about budgeting techniques which reduce food waste, as well as proper food skills and knife skills and things like that allow you to minimize the waste that you're producing from, say, peeling vegetables. Does it even need to be peeled in the first place? So encouraging bits and pieces of education and empowerment around that, I think, is really, really important. And again, as Bob sort of touched on there, the degree of circularity in terms of shopping local. So if we're looking at a holistic vision of what sustainability isn't just environmental sustainability, but there's a sustainability aspect of our local food economy, that we should be supporting local, that we should be shopping local where possible. And there's a rising trend around Aberdeen City of sort of refill shops and buy what you need shops and places that sell loose items more regularly within local communities as well. So there's a sort of rising trend in that, and I think it's about making the most of that and going local where you can, shopping around a little bit and supporting local on that. But also, in terms of food waste, there's also an aspect of making sure that is actively being designed out of the system where there are gluts. So for example, one of the partners of Granite City Good Food, the allotment market stall, if there's glut produce from those allotments and from the participating allotment holders, that then gets put to market stalls, which gets sold on and prevents food waste in that way. So it's designed out of the food system, and there's a degree of circularity to that, in that any profits made or anything that is garnered from those stalls go back to those allotment sites as dividends to help support that allotment site. So the theme there is all about encouraging circularity and encouraging that sort of little bit of thinking local, thinking what skills you've got and where are the opportunities to upskill, and sort of fundamentally designing food waste out and making sure that there is no food waste. I know that's ambitious to say, but that's the ideal world, I think.
Sam, I'm not sure if you've got any other questions you'd like to find out, or because I feel like I think I've asked all my questions I quickly jotted down.
Okay. Just in general, I suppose, if it's okay, a summary of where things are at now. Well, Stephen, you mentioned that seasons have extended, but regarding growing and your own services, if that's okay to give a wee update of where you're at, I'll just go around, or whoever wants to go first. Go first. Bob, you're first on my screen.
Save the best for last. I think if you put me first, I think that's the right way to do it. What are we doing? We've partnered up with a national organisation, Garden Organic, which is really exciting. And we're really going to be pushing the whole philosophy of doing it. We do it anyway. There's I think a lot of people do it anyway, but there's a big cost in getting accreditation for doing it, and so I think it's about making the practice and doing the practice rather than having a piece of paper that tells you that's what you're doing. But the principles behind it are absolutely fundamental to how we go about growing well and basically grow regeneratively. So really excited about that. There's a couple of really big things going on, which are really kind of, particularly on the education side. We're in a collaboration with another group, which can't really sort of go into just yet because they're a wholesaler who don't want to be particularly identified. But the great news is that we've been given a huge amount of seeds from them, so we'll be looking to distribute that and really focusing that around a whole climate change and biodiversity program that we've got in our education materials. So really what we're looking to try and do is to encourage schools to take part in this and to have a range of activities that tie into this, and we'll be giving them, I think the plan is to have free resources that we'll give them to allow them to do it. So really excited about that. I'm just kind of really excited just about the whole amount of things that are going on. There's been a massive amount of help from Stephen and the ACC and his team in supporting us in getting educational area based at Grove Nursery, so that we can start teaching people, and to have an area in greenhouses where we can bring people in, and that can be used by other groups as well. So I think this whole idea of working together in education will come a lot more naturally, and maybe something. It's nice to be able to do that maybe inside when it's a wee bit miserable to go out in a community garden in February. Or maybe not, but hopefully it is, so the weather's not that great. So yeah, lots going on. I'm just on the point of ordering seed potatoes for this year, and the numbers are quite scary, so I'm trying to throw myself to basically sort of like press the button on it, but it's going to be the biggest year we've ever had. The number of groups who want to take part and the number of communities that want to take part are really massive. So it's we're actually sort of going to be into various towns within the Shire. So we're actually going to have hubs in each of those towns, and we're going to be doing things there. So it's going to be a very busy March and April. And just to really try and support as much people as we can. So the offer is always there. So if there's anybody listening as a result of this, we are a group who are there to sort of like try and support you in whatever we can. And so if we can get something, find a way to get it to you, then we will do that. So the offer's always there to do that, and to just keep on working with everybody else.
It was so interesting.
That's really good. I was just going to say, Bob, is there details you want to pop on there if someone wants to get in touch?
Yeah, sure. So now that I've got a media coordinator, we are on Instagram and Facebook and everything. So you can find us as One Seed Forward, and if you just even sort of see our website, there's lots of links in from there. And if you did want to get in touch with us, our email is oneseedforward, all one word, @gmail.com. So again, yeah, you can just drop us a line. So if there's anything that you're looking for or interested in, yeah, if we can find it and help you do it, we'll do it.
Just a quick question. With the school work you're doing, would you want that to become like almost part of the curriculum that they're learning in regards, because that could tap in with like nutrition and health and stuff? Would that be something that would formally be educated then, if that's the plan?
Yeah, that's definitely. So
Okay.
the garden school programme was designed in that way, Katie. So we're very fortunate when we did it to get funding from the council to develop the materials, and we worked with the School of Education at Aberdeen University to get the initial programme done and the pilot programme done. We've and then since then, so that finished 2018. But so since then, we've invested in lots of additional materials and working through the websites and so on. So all that material and resources there, every element of it ties into the curriculum. So it doesn't matter what age you're at. You can be 3-year-old at nursery, or you can be a 16-year-old with the possibility of looking at a career in horticulture. The materials can be developed by the teachers to allow you to learn various aspects of things. So it takes you right through from garden design to soil structures, to composting, through to sowing, through to growing, and then through to harvesting and cooking. So the whole cycle of it is contained in materials. My idea was always it was going to be a worldwide thing,
Yeah.
because I've always got big ambitions on it. We're in 14 schools at the moment in Aberdeen City, Shire and Edinburgh. We had a chat with another 2 schools in Edinburgh yesterday. So I think that the programme's there as to be used by anybody, and it's free. The resources are free for anybody to use. And what our next step is to train up people who can then maybe go in and support schools. So I understand that Stephen said about the fact that there's a willingness within schools, but there's not a lot of time, there's not necessarily a lot of knowledge, and if you've got one teacher who's got a real outdoor learning passion, and then they leave, then you've got a real issue. So the idea is for us to, first of all, work with School of Education so that students who are coming through can be taught the programme and as part of their outdoor learning classes. And but also we're looking to have an online accreditation programme where we can put people through it, and then they can become our garden school ambassadors. And so schools could then hire them on the same basis that you hire a violin teacher for a couple of hours a week, maybe, for them to come in and actually sort of like assist or run the programme with a class or with more of it. And it's great. What I really like about it is that when we suddenly hear from a school that sort of says, "Oh, we're actually at stage 3 of your programme, so can we get an award and get certificates?" And you've not even spoken to them. It's fantastic. I love it. And it's designed quite easily to get a very fast accreditation, so that the pupils don't need to do a huge amount of stuff to be getting rewarded. And I think that's really important. So I'm sure that there's a lot of schools who could actually apply for it at the moment, and so that's really where we're kind of like trying to push a bit more. So yeah, thanks for the question, because we really do want everybody to be aware that those resources are there, they're free to use, and anybody can use them, and we're happy enough to answer questions or even do a site visit if you want to basically get started with it.
Yeah, no, I it's so interesting hearing all about it, and I can just like hear your enthusiasm and passion about this and how much you do want to help schools, communities learn as much as possible. And I can imagine it being challenging getting, supporting the teachers, because obviously they're so busy with the curriculum that they've got to teach already. So I love that online idea that alleviates like pressure from the teachers, that there is an option. Oh, you can, it's inclusive. It makes it, I think, almost even more inclusive. It's really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And we kind of offer like CPD as well, because again, pre-pandemic we had one school who came in and we had 8 of their teaching assistants and teachers came in to look at the programme. We did a whole day session with them, and that was just real good fun. So we continue to kind of offer that sort of thing. And so if there's people who want to take part in it, then we can help out as much as we can.
Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for the question.
I love the ideas of schools and kids getting involved and coming on board, but also the fact that it is communities and it's families. I appreciate teachers are teaching, gardeners are growing, but it's also something that kids can do with their parents, their grandparents, and join together as a community. I wonder if we can finish off maybe looking at that. I appreciate they do still have to be taught by teachers. I'm not saying that rebelling against the system or anything, but just the actual fact that it can be, it is so enjoyable and a good way of families getting together and having time together, whatever that family makeup is. Martin, Stephen?
Yeah, I think just to sort of come in on where some of the opportunities lie, and I think, again, thinking about that connection that we've just spoken of, and the opportunity for all to be involved. One of the things that came to mind actually when we were talking about opportunities that they lie at the moment and what lies ahead is Cfine has partnered up with Together TV around the Green Challenge, which is an initiative which will, I believe it's an 8-week initiative which offers free basil seeds to households and families. And I think the TV chef Rusty Lee's involved in it as well, and providing videos and materials and things to help growing there. So again, opportunities, much like I suppose Keep Growing Aberdeen, to start from the very beginning and see something flourish within a household and things like that. And I believe it's quite easy to sign up for those seed packs and get involved in that, and that's something that we'll be going through the winter months and has started at the moment. But in terms of wider context, I suppose, of the things that are going on and talking about the opportunities for involvement and how important it is that everyone feels a part of that. Over the next few months, and a piece of work that I'm currently working on actually is developing the application for Aberdeen to become a Sustainable Food Places Silver award holder, which the significance of which would be really, really, really significant for Aberdeen City. It's a place-based award that recognises the significance of sustainability within the food system, and again, a big part of that is looking at a good food movement. Everyone is part of the food system, and I suppose it's about helping to tease out conversations and helping to help people people to realise and contribute to how that looks and how their participation looks. And definitely, I think there's a role there for, for everyone to feel a part of and to make sure that everyone feels a part of that. For definite, but I think the main one in which the main opportunity of those two, which particularly families and individuals can get involved in, is definitely that green challenge. It sounds fantastic. It's an opportunity to grow basil within your own home, so it's definitely something for families and individuals to be getting involved in. Absolutely.
Thanks, Martin, and thanks for Cfine and what's going on. Stephen, for yourself and your team, or any other thoughts before we finish?
Well, what to add, Sam, is that we're currently, as an operational team in City Council, we're now moving into our winter season, which, demand will still be there. The team are very, very busy, but we'll continue to look to make links and support and encourage community groups wherever we can. Huge challenges facing the council in terms of budget pressures and such like, but it doesn't mean there's not going to be opportunity, and we want to try new things. Partnership working is key to this, to be perfectly honest. We've got to work together and close together with people. Many people have great ideas, and it's just a case of linking in with these folk and making these things happen. I'm a great believer that good things happen with good people involved. So we're very lucky to have good relationships with many great people, good people, and long may that continue. So we will be working away over the winter period towards springtime next year, looking to create new links, meet new people, continue to support and develop groups where we can, and just find ways of making our environment a better place. The groups we work with currently range from nursery children right through to people in their 90s and everybody in between. So everybody is included. You've all said that, and it's important that does continue. And we won't be doing it for people or instructing people. We will be working with people. It's very much a partnership thing in terms of what we're looking to do as environmental services. And it's the best part of what we do, to be perfectly honest. And I wish we had the time and the resource to do more of it. And I'm confident that will come, because it's such an important thing that we work together for the benefit of the local community in the city and everybody who's part of that. It's exciting times ahead, but also very challenging times. But it does mean the days go quick, which is obviously, it's never a dull moment, is there? Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. And I guess finishing off with Esther and Katie, have you any other thoughts?
I've also just really enjoyed this podcast and getting to speak and hear information about what everyone's up to, and I feel very inspired and empowered, so I feel I'm going to have a productive afternoon.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was lovely to see you all virtually. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. Esther?
Yeah, I was just saying, I'm the same with Katie, I guess. Like, it was really an eye-opener, like the topics like that we were talking about and stuff, because then this is the kind of stuff that I'm going to put into my reflective journal and things like that I've been keeping weekly. So yeah, really insightful.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much, guys. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Take care. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, everyone. Great to see you all. See you later.
Bye-bye. A huge thank you to everyone involved. We'll be following up on this series as we go along. Lots to take on there, and some brilliant information from fantastic, enthusiastic people in our community, and everyone supporting each other. I think that's the overall message from it. It's for everyone. Anyone can get involved, and we're all in this together. #FitFunAbs to find out more of our podcasts and other productions for Fresh Community Wellness SCIO 51346.